Those of you here today are responsible for advising and leading and guiding. Spending on cybersecurity is expected to top $100 billion in 2015, with a forecast annual growth rate of over 20% over the next 5 years. And this, together with the threat of cyber attacks to corporate performance, I believe warrants our companies and our industry's attention. This next session will be hosted by Carlos Moreira, our moderator. We were very fortunate to have Carlos with us from Switzerland and London, where he delivered an enlightening address that was both terrifying and I think encouraging, in so much as that there are solutions that organizations like Carlos's are developing and bringing to the market today, and I know that will be very much a part of this conversation. So I'd like you to please join me in welcoming Carlos Moreira, the CEO of WISeKey. And an esteemed panel, which Carlos, I will let you introduce.
Thank you very much, David. It is a pleasure for me to be here. We just did a similar panel in London, in Bloomberg, about cybersecurity. I am from a country which, as you can imagine, has huge concern about cybersecurity because it's a country which is a financial hub. And just to give you an image, which is the image I would like to open the panel, in Switzerland we are already voting, means election, through a mobile phone. So that means that there is a threat, there is a huge amount of opportunities as well if we know how to mitigate those threats. So I have the pleasure to have a very interesting panel and at the same time very different panel because we have among ourselves experts on cybersecurity, or financial experts as well, and they have relations to the cybersecurity. So I have a pleasure just on order to introduce Jeffrey Wells, Executive Director of the Cybersecurity Development in Maryland Department of Business and Economic Development. Jeffrey will give us insights from Maryland and how to build cybersecurity hubs, which are the opportunities around states to involve and invest in cybersecurity. Then we have Mario Rovello. Mario Rovello is an old friend of me. We have been working together with Microsoft in the past, where Mario was leading the public sector division and very much involved in everything which relates cybersecurity around the world, and in particular now in advising the U.S. government on cybersecurity. Then I would like to introduce Gregory Sohaja, which is the president of the McKinney Partners Business Intelligence Division and manage the company service capability for corporate due diligence, investigation, and cybersecurity and business intelligence. He will also give us insight about this huge market growing around us, which is the investigation and intelligence market. And then lastly with Gregory Bedrosian, also a good old friend. Gregory is very active into the investment world in Europe and also in the United States, and he will give us some insights about the cybersecurity M&As and where we stand in terms of the opportunities around cybersecurity. So maybe just to start, and I'm going to do that in a Q&A as we do in Davos in the World Economic Forum. By the way, this panel will continue in Davos in January as we are continue reflecting our visions and thought leadership on cybersecurity. Maybe just to start first with Mario. Mario, as we're in the United States, what is the position of the Congress in what concerns cybersecurity? Are we taking serious cybersecurity now versus what happened maybe in the past?
Thank you, Carlos. The issue is real, as we've just heard the statistics, and it's being discussed in real manner, real time. However, the political parties in Washington, both in the Congress and the administration, are having this difficult time agreeing on a baseline and on a cybersecurity framework. A number of congressional leaders are looking to make it voluntary. Others want to make it mandatory. The administration has come out and has proposed an excellent cybersecurity framework. It's voluntary in nature, but again, it's getting consensus. There's a lot of talk about cybersecurity. And actually, Jeff and I participated at National Governor's Task Force with governors from Maryland and Michigan. And actually, the governors were able to get something done because both parties were at the table and they put politics aside on this issue at the state level and actually worked on it. And were able to form a coalition. Whereas in Congress, it's much more difficult to find that coalition, even within a party. So there's very wide views. So we're hopeful that we will see some action very soon. There is a need for legislative action. I will applaud the administration for taking positive steps, but at the same time, we in the industry do need clarity in the legislation. For example, the number one issue that would help us collectively is the sharing of information on vulnerabilities and risks. Companies are afraid to come forward and share that information because it will be held against them. But yet, the breaches continue. So from that perspective alone, establishing a safe harbor provision, as well as allowing and encouraging information to be shared amongst the parties, having corporate sectors and corporate leaders in IT come forward and say, these are the threats that we're seeing coming in, would help agencies and law enforcement address the issue. But there's just a hostility at times of working together right now in Washington on a number of these issues.
From our observation in my company, and we are helping several governments on cybersecurity, one of the threats that we are realizing now is that the password is dead. I mean, we're still using password. Password was a notion even before the internet. We have been using password for nearly 30 years now. And the password technology is totally obsolete. And everything runs in passwords. I mean, you are all using passwords to access your mobile phones, to access your email, to access your website, and passwords are totally unprotected. So in the United States, you're going to have something that in Europeans we started, maybe because we started with the chip technology many years ago. You're going to have something we call the National Infrastructure on Trusted Identity Cyberspace, which is a strategy for the White House to protect citizens in the United States. What is your views? Because I really believe cybersecurity ground zero is protecting first the citizens. Corporations have different ways to protect themselves, but citizens is essential because citizens are being hacked every day. 18 million Americans lost their personal data last year, and this is incremental. So how are we protecting citizens from the US government perspective?
Today, we're really not. I mean, we are, all of us in this room, we're the low-hanging fruit for the hackers. You know, we're all tapping our smartphone, our device. We're clicking on links. We're clicking on emails that we think we know who they're from, but in reality, it's from a hacker or others. So the issue is, today we're not focused on the consumer and the end user as much as we are trying to protect the data and the networks. And I think that there's an opportunity for the US to learn from the European side. And in fact, coming up at the end of the month, there is a joint session